Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out on such a cold night. We are very pleased to have Kathy Gray from Pole Position Marketing do a program on Twitter. We've had lots of requests for this, and Kathy comes highly recommended by another one of our presenters who's been here a couple of times, Anita Campbell of Small Business Trends. She said Kathy's the one to go to. So before she's been at Pole Position Marketing since when? In 2013, just recently.
I'm almost to my 1-year anniversary.
Okay, yeah. And before that, she managed digital marketing for the Canton-Stark County Convention and Visitors Bureau. So I think she has just the right kind of experience that we all need to hear about. So without any further ado, let's give her a warm welcome.
Well, I really appreciate you, Ellen, asking me to come up and speak about Twitter. I love to talk about social media. It's a passion of mine. So feel free to come up to me afterwards. We can talk more. I could talk your ear off for hours about social media, but I'll try not to do that tonight. I know you all want to get home and get to bed at some point. But at Twitter, everybody's on Facebook. So a lot of small business owners, they feel very comfortable starting a page for themselves on Facebook. It's easy to understand, but Twitter has a little bit more of a learning curve. So I know for us, when I work with our clients, when I was at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I would work with a lot of our small business partners there, everybody has questions about Twitter. It's just not as easy to grasp. And I think a lot of people feel like the scene from The Birds. It's all the little Twitter birds flying after you and you're running screaming because it's like, what is going on here? So I got on Twitter in 2008. I was home on maternity leave. And my sister-in-law, who works in higher education, she had been on Twitter for since it started in 2006. And she had been bugging me to get on it. And so finally, I'm home on maternity leave. I thought, what the heck, I'll sign up for an account. And so I got on it and I started interacting. I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun. And it was kind of fun in the early days of Twitter. Guess how many users Twitter had in 2008? Anybody? Take a wild stab. 12,000. 6 million, actually. But so was me and 6 million of my closest friends on Twitter. But guess how many they have today? 243 million active users on Twitter, and that's as of the beginning of this month. There were 243 million active users. So that's a lot of people. Now I have a lot more close friends to interact with. And I think one of the things that's hard for people is when you get on Twitter, you have this endless stream of tweets coming in, and it's how do you make sense of it? And there's so much going on. And when I send a tweet out, who sees it? Where does it go? How does it get to my ideal customer when you're looking at it from a business perspective? There are 500 million tweets sent out per day. So when you send a tweet as a small business, you're going up against 500 million other tweets. So it's pretty crazy. So that's one thing we're really going to talk about. I'm very passionate about with Twitter is that you really drill down to find your customers on Twitter and focus in on them and just ignore everything else that's happening out there. So otherwise, it just becomes way too overwhelming. So we're going to kind of talk about what Twitter is so that you guys can understand it a little bit better so you're not sitting around scratching your head about it. The best analogy I've found to describe Twitter is that it's like a cocktail party. So you walk into a cocktail party and there are all these little groups of people talking and chattering about different things. So you find your group of people and you go in and you start a conversation with them or join into a conversation of a topic that's of interest to you, while all these other conversations are happening all around you. And that's what Twitter's like. You go onto Twitter, you find your crowd, your audience, your ideal customers, and then you start a conversation and join in the conversation with them. So, and then after you join into that conversation, you build the relationship with them, because that's really what social media is all about. Whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever social network you're on as a business, The goal is to build a relationship with your customers and your ideal customers. So that's what you're really there for. It's not to sell them something. Social media is the soft sell. It's not a hard sell. You're there to build a relationship so that when they need your product or service, you're the person that they think of first. So my suggestion is, first, let's see, how many of you are actually on Twitter? Oh, show of hands. And how many of you are on it for your business? Okay, so just a few of you. So those of you that are on it personally, you have some idea of how it works. If you're not on it personally, I suggest you start with a personal account. And this goes for this is my advice with any social media platform. Before you jump on with your business, jump on as yourself first. Get used to the social network, how it works, what are the social norms that happen on that particular network, and get used to it before you jump on with your business. It will give you an idea of if your ideal customer is there and whether or not you should be active on it. And that's something that's really important too. A lot of small business owners feel like they have to be on every social network. And you don't have to be. There's nobody out there that's going to come and take you to jail because you're not on Twitter. So, and we deal with that a lot with our clients. They want to get on every social network, but they have limited time and resources. So you need to really focus in to see where your ideal customer is and focus on those networks first. So you go to your top most logical network, whether that's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, it could be Twitter, it could be Pinterest. You go to your top network first, and then you start branching out from there as time permits. So after you get on with your personal account, you want to learn the language. So Twitter has its own lingo, and that's I've got a cheat sheet that I put together for you with some of that lingo so that as you jump on, you can get used to what all of these different things mean. So there's RT. You'll see that in front of some tweets on Twitter, and that means retweet. That's somebody that's taken a tweet that somebody has sent out, a message. Go ahead.
Show how to get on the account first.
I'm sorry?
Would you show us how to get on the account or how to open an account there?
You know what? We can do that after, if you want. We can kind of go through it. Signing up for an account is really easy. They just need your email address and your name, and you're pretty much on. But we can bring up the internet later and show you that. So you want to, as you get your personal account, you want to learn the lingo. So you want to learn what a retweet is. When you see MT and you think, okay, what does the person mean by that? It's a modified tweet. It means that they've retweeted something, so they've sent that message out again that somebody else had, but they've modified it before they sent it out. You've got the DM, which is a direct message. So that's a message that you send between two users, but no one else can see. You've got via, and that means I'm going to tweet something from your website, and since it came from your website, I'm going to tag you in that so that I'm giving you recognition that it came from your website. So I would put via and then your Twitter username. And then there's hashtags, and we'll go into hashtags more later because that's a big debatable. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. Oh, if you haven't watched that YouTube video, you have to look up Jimmy Fallon hashtags. It's hilarious. So when you're creating a business account, here are a few tips for that. You want to use your business name. You don't want to use any cutesy names like a product. You want to use your actual business name. You want to avoid hyphens, special characters. You want to talk in your bio. You want to talk about features and benefits that your business offers. Your profile picture should always be your logo. And again, this goes for all social networks. Unless you are your business, I mean, that works for consultants who they are their business and people will recognize their face and that has value. Then you use your own profile, your own picture. But otherwise, as a business, you should always use your logo. You want to keep it consistent across social networks so that no matter where you are, that brand message is always consistent and people will recognize you. Because profile pictures are really tiny. So you want to make sure, again, if you have it the same on all social networks, it's that clue in to people when they see it that, oh yeah, that's my favorite bridal store, or that's my favorite consultant. And I did look up you guys before I came. So I'll be using some of you in my presentation. So surprise. Your background, your graphics, you want to keep it clean and simple. You don't want to be busy. There's enough going on Twitter as it is. You don't want busy graphics in the background of your profile. And that goes for your header as well. So the first thing you want to do when you get on Twitter, after you've created a personal account, you've started to get used to the lingo, kind of are understanding how it works, you decided to create a business account, you need to put together a strategy. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to be successful. And so many people do that on social media, no matter what the network is. They just jump on because everybody says, you need to be on Twitter, you need to be on Facebook, you need to be on YouTube for your business. But they don't think about why they're getting involved or how they're going to interact with people once they're on Twitter. So we're going to talk about putting together a strategy. And your strategy should answer these questions. What are your goals and objectives? So why do you want to be on there? How will you measure success? That's another age-old question with social media. Is there return on investment? So we'll go through some steps. We're going to go through each of these in depth. Who do you want to build a relationship with? So while you're on social networks, who are you trying to reach? Who is your ideal customer? How will you build the relationship? So what are you going to do? What kind of content are you going to share? How are you going to engage with your ideal customers once you're on there? So first, we're going to talk about your goals and objectives. So this is my analogy for goals and objectives. If you don't have them, you're just out there walking blindfolded. You have no idea where you're going or what the benefit is, and your ideal customers have no idea why you're on there. So you want to think about what is the benefit to your business for being on social media? Why do you want to be on there? Is it awareness and branding? Is it reputation management? Maybe you have customer service issues. Are you looking to retain customers and build stronger relationships with them? For consultants, are you looking to become a thought leader in your field? This is especially, when you look at your service industries, attorneys, doctors, different consulting businesses, that would be what you're looking at. Are you looking to increase traffic to your website? All of us want sales and leads. That's the bottom line for a business. And that's kind of a ladder goal because you're not going to immediately get sales and leads. You're not going to send out your first tweet and have somebody come into your business from it. So that's kind of a byproduct of some of these other goals, but it definitely should be a goal to eventually use it to increase your sales and leads. So you want to go through and think about those and write out your objectives and what you want to accomplish, because that's going to determine how you're going to measure your success. So here are some metrics that you can use to measure how successful you are on Twitter. So let's say that you want to increase awareness of, I'm going to use the bridal shop example. So you want to increase awareness of your bridal store. So you're going to look at mentions. How many times has my business name been mentioned on Twitter? How many times have my tweets been retweeted? Because when somebody takes your tweet and they retweet it to their followers, it goes out to everyone in their list. So that expands your awareness. The at replies, that would be when somebody engages directly with you. So that's another good measurement for awareness and branding. Are people actually interacting with me? Qualified follows. That's another big thing on Twitter. So you can follow other people and they can follow you back. There's a lot of spam accounts on Twitter. There are a lot of people and a lot of businesses that will go out and they'll follow hundreds of users, hoping that those users will follow them back to make their numbers look good. So they can say, I have 10,000 followers on Twitter. Well, that really means nothing if those people are never going to utilize your products or services. There's no point in having 10,000 followers if it means nothing to your business's bottom line. So you really want to track how many qualified followers do I have. And that's something that's a little difficult to do. It depends on your industry, but you can look at the Twitter user's profile to see their description, see what they're tweeting about, to see if they match your ideal customer, and then you know, okay, this is a person that's a potential customer of mine. You can put them onto a Twitter list of potential customers, and we're going to go into Twitter lists in a little bit. That's my secret weapon of Twitter, is the Twitter list. And then posting engagement consistency. A lot of our clients, when we first start out on social media, one of the hardest things is just getting in the habit of using social media. A lot of small business owners, you're busy during the day doing lots of different things. Social media is not the only thing you do in your day. I'm sure you have many, many other things to worry about, and social media is way down on the priority list. So a lot of times at the first month or two that you're on a social platform, your first goal should be consistency. So whatever you've determined, whether you want to post 5 tweets a day, 2 tweets a day, 10 tweets a day, you just want to be consistent. And that's important so that people know that they can expect to have messages from you. It's really tough if you follow somebody and they tweet today, but then they never send them out another message for a month. There's not really a reason. It's not engaging then. Then you get into website metrics that you can track. So you've got traffic to your website. If you're using Google Analytics on your website, you can see how much traffic is coming from Twitter. So you can use that as a way to track success because you want that to trend upwards. You can look at leads, and would be a whole other topic. But in Google Analytics, you can set up tracking in there for goals. So you can see how many leads, how many forms have been filled out, and did they come from Twitter. You can also look to see, it's pretty fun, you can see what's called assisted conversions. So that means somebody came to my website, but maybe they came to me from a Google search. But Google Analytics can track to see if they've been on your website before. So maybe the first time they came to your website, they came through a tweet. And then a couple weeks later, they were doing a search for your business type. They saw your business come up again. They remembered you from seeing you on Twitter, and they clicked through to your business. Google Analytics can track that. So you can see that coming to you from Twitter assisted in that conversion of them filling out a lead form, purchasing a product, or something like that. Obviously, direct sales, coupon redemptions. If you're e-commerce, you can track that through Google Analytics, and some e-commerce software will let you track where somebody came from if they entered a coupon code, so you can see it that way. And, of course, contest entries, too. If you run a Twitter-only contest, you can track things that way to see how far your message is reaching. So we've got these. How do I tell how many mentions I've gotten? How do I track that? Of course, there's the good old Excel spreadsheet to track things, and I use that quite a bit. But other methods that will help you get your numbers. For the Twitter metrics, you've got Hootsuite, which is a Twitter management platform. It's free. It has paid versions, but you can start off with a free version first. There's Buffer, which is also free to begin with, and then has a paid version of it. There's a website called True Social Metrics. They'll help you track all of your mentions, your retweets, your replies, how many followers you've gotten, and how it's increased over time. They also have a free version and then paid versions once you get hooked on it.
Did you use all of those, or do you kind of pick one?
I actually do use a combination of Buffer, True Social Metrics, and Twitter lists, depending on what metric I want to track. So as a small business just getting started, you wouldn't necessarily need to do all of that. I mean, I go a lot more in depth for our clients, but just starting out, pick one, go with the basics until you get your feet wet, and then add things on. But these are just a couple of the things available to you. On your website, Google Analytics, if you don't have Google Analytics coding installed on your website, talk to your web developer and make sure you do, because you're missing out on a lot of insights, even outside of social media metrics. So make sure you've got that. If you have e-commerce software that you're using, That you can also get metrics for through those. And then in store. Yes?
What was it that you said having coded in your website?
Google Analytics, yeah. And make sure they give you access to it, too. I know from years ago when I was at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, we worked with a web developer, and they didn't want to give us access to our analytics. They only wanted to tell us what they were. They didn't want us to be able to go in and see them ourselves. And that's really ridiculous. So make sure they give you access.
Usually when someone favorites your tweets, is that like liking on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is that just sort of something that you or your followers see, or?
It would be something just you see.
Okay.
Their followers wouldn't see them favorite anything, but it is another metric that you could track how often you're being favorited, because that means, oh, somebody saw it and they actually liked what I'm posting. Okay. So that's another indication to you. Okay. Yep. So in store, this is a good thing too. If you've got like the bridal store, do some sort of offer on Twitter, whether it's, and it doesn't need to be, 50% off a bridal gown, because that would be ridiculous and you'd go out of business doing that too much. But offer an added value of something that if they come in and say this code, they get some little something, whether it's a pair of earrings or something that's not too cost prohibitive to your business. And that can help you track to see, are people actually listening to what I'm saying? So then you want to determine, who do you want to build a relationship with? And this is where we get into who your ideal customer is. You need to know your audience. So a good thing to do is go through this list and write down characteristics about your ideal customer. So what is their gender? What's their age? Where do they live? Now, this is going to be different for every different industry. So for the bridal store that's located in Hudson, the gender is definitely a big one, because men probably are not looking for bridal gowns. At least we'd hope not. Then location. Obviously, you have a distinct market area. You're not going to be looking for somebody in Toledo. A bride in Toledo is not going to come to Hudson for a wedding gown.
They do.
Well, okay, so maybe they do. Okay. Sorry. But we'll say California. It's a little farther, unless it's a really amazing gown. But you have a specific demographic area that you know that people are coming from. If you sell nationally, obviously that doesn't apply. But maybe the job title or company does. We work with an industrial company, and they sell worldwide. So with them, we look at job title and company. Then they'll place that in their profile, and we can search Twitter to find that. So we're looking for engineers and different people in the oil and gas industry. So we can search those specific job titles to find the people we're looking for. And we'll get into Twitter search in just a minute. Their interests. What do they say about themselves? How do they classify themselves? So for me, on my Twitter profile, one of the things I list is that I'm a wannabe homesteader. So I'm not quite, I love the idea of having my own chickens and, living on the Little House on the Prairie dreams and stuff. I read all those books when I was a kid. I don't know that I actually want to do all of that. So I do kind of like cushy, my life to be a little cushy. So, but I put it that I'm a wannabe homesteader because I am interested in those types of things. I do have a garden and those types of interests. So I've actually had, I had a company that sells small homes. There's this whole trend with these small houses and different things. I don't know that I want to do that with two small kids to live in a 500 square foot house. Maybe when my husband and I retire, we'll go with the small house movement. But anyway, they must have been searching homesteading. They brought up my profile and they followed me and sent me a tweet. So they knew that I was interested in the types of products and services they talked about. So think about your ideal customers and how would they describe themselves on social media and their profiles? What types of words would they use? Think about the goals and challenges that they have, because you can search through the tweets and find people to see what they're talking about. What are they tweeting about? How do they? So we kind of went through that. How do they describe themselves? What words and phrases do they use? So go through and kind of fill out profiles on all of your ideal customers. And then what we want to do is we want to segment our audience with Twitter lists. So once we've got our people segmented out, I just did this with a client of ours that sells winter clothing to women. So they sell ski jackets, ski apparel, snowboarding equipment and apparel. So we kind of went through and I said, okay, let's define our three main audience groups. So we had the Midwest, the Midwesterner, the woman who is cold. We're all cold in the Midwest this winter, aren't we? So they're looking for jackets to stay warm, just for everyday use. They just want it for that. Then you have the person who is the ski enthusiast, who is out on the slopes all the time, taking all kinds of trips. They want heavy-duty ski gear. And then they have the once-a-year skier, who once a year goes to Vail or goes overseas to do some big ski trip. So it's a big client base for them, these people that just go once a year to go skiing, and every year they buy new equipment for their ski trip. So that's our other kind of audience. So then from that, we create Twitter lists for each of those groups of people. So we have the Midwest woman, we have the ski enthusiast, and then we have the once-a-year skier. And so once we find them on Twitter, we put them into these lists. The cool thing about Twitter lists is that you don't have to follow somebody to put them into your list. So that comes in really handy when you're looking at your competitors, because you may not want to show your competitor that you're watching what they're doing, but you want to watch what they're doing. So you can put them into a list. You can mark it private so nobody sees that you have them in a list, and you can keep an eye on what they're doing and what they're saying on Twitter. You can put employees into, you could have a list for employees. You could have a list for bloggers that you want to reach out to, other thought leaders in your industry. I have one list. It's my go-to list of thought leaders in the web marketing industry. So when I'm looking for content to share on our Twitter account, I can go to this one list of the top 12 influencers that I follow, and I can look at what they're sharing and then reshare some of that with our followers. So that can really come in handy. Geography, another thing. Yep, go ahead.
Well, back to the three classes of women.
The client knew that, and that's something that you would need to research in your own business and survey your customers to find out who is buying from you and who your potential customers. Well, you first start out before you would even really get on Twitter, before you would look to see if they're there, you want to define who your customer is and your different customer segments. Once you have those different customer segments defined, then you go on Twitter to see if they're actually there. Because that's the important thing. That's a lot of why we start to do this with a client, is to look to see, is their customer actually on Twitter? Once we get them in lists, is their customer actually active on Twitter? Because if your customer base isn't there, there's no reason for you to be there. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about you don't have to be on every social network. If your customer base isn't there, even though everybody tells you you need to be there, you don't need to be there. It's a waste of your time. So you want to make sure that enough of your customer base is there before you invest a lot of time and resources into putting out tweets and a Twitter presence.
How do you access the lists? Twitter lists. How do you access them?
Okay, so the question was, how do you access the Twitter list? And I'm gonna go through that, how to set up a list here in a minute. I've got screenshots to show you of how you can set up a list and how you can see it then and follow them through your account. Yes.
You have to have an account on Twitter to see if they're on Twitter, right?
You should have an account, and that's where it goes back to having a personal account first. If you want to see if your customers are there, create a personal account and then search to see if your customers are on Twitter. So, and if you already have a business account on Twitter, obviously, then you can use it to do that as well. Yes?
Do it by industry?
And the question was, do you do it by industry? Can you? Yes. Well, you can if you know, and that comes back to knowing the terms and the phrases that people would use to describe themselves in a particular industry. Like the industrial client that we have, they deal a lot with the oil and gas industry. So we have a set of keywords and phrases that people in the oil and gas industry use to describe themselves. And then we search Twitter for those keywords to find those people. And we'll go through how to search Twitter to find them here in just a second. So first we're going to create our Twitter list. Before we search to find people, we want to create our list so that once we find them, we have some place to put them and organize them. So this is using my profile up here. So first we log into Twitter, and we click on the little me button here. And then we go down here and we click on lists. And then we go over here and we click on create list. It's really pretty simple to do.
Did they always have that? Or is that something new?
Yeah, they've always had it, yeah. It might be because you're on mobile. Okay, so I'm on a tablet or a platform. Twitter looks a lot different than it does on a computer screen. So on this, and I have to, pardon me while I take over your iPad. If we go home.
Only tweeted twice in my life.
Let's see. It's me. Let's go back
You
here.
can do it offline if you want.
Yeah, you know what? We'll look at, right there.
No, I had that though. I had that, and that's where that came from.
Okay.
Do it offline.
Yep, we can talk afterwards. Okay. Sorry. All right. So once we, and it is easier to do this if you're on a desktop, especially when you're doing your research. So we clicked on that create list, and it brings up this screen. So then we can name our list. So we could name it competition. I know there was one company here that does, it's traveling transcripts. And so one of their main target audience is relocation companies. So this could be, the list name could be relocation companies that they're searching for and they want to connect with on Twitter. You could do public. We have a couple public lists. The way we use them, we have one public list that's all of our team members. So for us as a company, because of our industry, our personal accounts are followed more and are more influential than our business account because people want to know what each of us as strategists are thinking. They take that holds more weight than the company Twitter profile in our particular industry. So we have a list that shows all of our personal Twitter accounts so that people can follow us personally on Twitter. Another list that we have, we recently launched an ebook called Link Building Secrets, and it had 20 different link building professionals. And I know this is kind of boring for some people, but 20 link building professionals from around the world that contributed tips to this book that we published. So we created a Twitter list for those people. So it contains a list of all those people in their Twitter accounts. So people that download the ebook can go to our Twitter page, see the list. They can follow the list and follow all of the people on it to learn more link building tips and more information from that. So you could also use this in the bridal store example. Maybe you would create a public list that was all of your partner businesses. So let's say you partner with a florist or you have a preferred caterer, a preferred wedding location that you work with. You could create a public list of all of those accounts on Twitter too that would add value to your customers. So then you can put in, if you choose, you can put in a description. You don't have to, especially if it's a private list. There's no need to put in a description unless you're sharing the account with somebody else and they need to know, why did she create that list? You can pick whether it's public or private. For competition, obviously, we want that to be private. So next we're going to go to Twitter search to find our audience. So again, we look at these things that we looked at before, the demographics, the job title, the interests, and we go to twitter.com/search-advanced, and that will take us to the advanced Twitter search page, which I'm not sure how that will work on mobile for you, so I apologize.
The list on mobile, by the way, you just click on me and scroll to the bottom and there's a list option.
Okay, so for list on mobile, you go to me, scroll, and then you click on the list option.
Again, that did show up when being able to create one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I apologize.
Yes, go ahead.
So you can follow a person and you can follow a list also?
Yes. Yep.
So you're talking about finding your audience. Oh, and you have, that's where you look.
Yeah, the PowerPoint presentation will be online afterwards, right, Ellen? So you can go, I know it's small in your handouts to see that URL. Once you go online and get the presentation later, you can download it and actually click on that hyperlink to go right to the page. So we're going to use our keywords to search on Twitter. So this is what the advanced Twitter search looks like. And I'm going to use the example of relocation companies. So I've put up here in words, I want to search the word relocation. That could be any of those job titles, location, any demographic information that you're looking for a person, you can put in that. You can also put down here, near this place. If someone has added their location to their Twitter profile, you can then search by location. Some people don't put their location, they might just put United States. So you're not going to find those users, but it will help you target down if geography is important to your business. So then after we hit search, we are brought up with a list of results. And so when I did the relocation search, over here on the left column, those were the top 4 results that were brought up. So Paragon relocation looked interesting because, again, we're looking for relocation companies. We want to connect with them. So here's Paragon Relocation, a full-service relocation management company. So that looks like, hey, this might be a business that I want to connect with. So I click on Paragon Relocation, and it brings up this profile summary. So then I can learn a little bit more about them, where they're at. I can see their website. I can see how many followers they have, how many people are following them, see some of their most recent tweets, and I think, okay, this looks like a good match. I want to add them to my list. So I go over to this little gear icon, and it brings me to this drop down, and I can hit add or remove from list. And then I don't have a screenshot of it, but it's pretty straightforward. It brings up an image of it shows all of your lists, and you just check mark which ones you want to add them to, and you're done. At this point, you can decide you may want to follow them. So if it's a really good match, somebody you know you want to build a relationship with them, in addition to just adding them to your list, you may also want to follow them if you really want to keep up on what they're saying. And that sends a signal to them. Also, they'll get a notification that your company, if we're using the example of Traveling Transcripts, it would say Traveling Transcripts has followed you on Twitter, and they would get a notification of it. So then that brings awareness of your business to them. The one thing you want to be careful of is that you don't want to follow too many people too fast. Because what can happen, especially if you have a new account, let's say you go out and you follow 500 people, but only 20 have followed you back. When somebody goes to your profile, and they look at these numbers, it's going to show 500 following here, and it's going to show 20 followers. And then when somebody comes to your profile, they're going to think, well, boy, they're following a lot of people, but nobody's following them back. They must not have anything good to say. So you want to make sure you do it, you follow people slowly so that it doesn't look bad to your target audience, too. So it's...
So by adding them to the list, that means I'm following them, or I need to take another step to follow?
Okay, so the question was, by adding them to a list, it means I'm following them, or do I need to take another step to follow them? Adding them to the list is just adding them to the list. You're not following them at that point. To actually follow them, you would need to click the follow button. Once you've clicked that, it turns blue, and then you know that you've followed them.
Why would you add somebody to a list?
Yeah, what's the advantage of a list?
So you would add them to the list and not follow them because you don't want your numbers to get out of whack. And maybe you don't know if you want to build a relationship with them. You just want to monitor them. So you're looking at them. Again, let's use... Yes, like the example of the competition is a good one. You don't necessarily want to follow the competition. You don't want them to know that you're following them. So by putting them on a list without following them, They don't know that you're watching them.
Notifications to your account then? Do they come up onto your Twitter account scrolling like Facebook to tell you what they're doing?
So, okay, the question was, does it come up scrolling on your account to tell them what they're doing when they're added to a list? To see what a list is doing, you would then go to the list. So just like, let me back up a second here.
So going to the list is like going out to your mailbox at the end of your driveway as opposed to
Right.
the following, which is automatically put in your email.
Yeah, when you follow somebody, it automatically comes into your home feed. With a list, you have to go to a specific place to follow it. So for a list, when you went to your Twitter account to see what people on your lists are doing, you would do the same steps that you did to create the list. You would go to me, you would go to your list, and then below this, it's cut off here in this screenshot, but below that would have a list of all of my lists. And then I would click on one of those lists, and that would show me all of the tweets from all of the people on my list. And that's how I can see what they're doing.
Without them.
Without them knowing. Yeah, we're being spies on our ideal customers or our competition to keep up with them. So it is very beneficial. It helps you to, the other thing this helps with, if you follow a ton of people on Twitter, let's say you follow 1,000 people on Twitter, your Twitter stream will be so blown up with tweets that it'll be hard to get into the conversations that you're really looking for. So by doing the list, you're also segmenting the people you follow. So if you want to go in and just look at your, let's say you have a list for brides, and so it's all the people that you found that are engaged in your area, and you just want to look to see what they're saying to engage with them, you can just go to that list. If you want to go to all of your partner businesses, the halls and the photographers and all of that, you can go to that list and just see what they're saying without all the other noise. It really helps cut through the noise and the clutter because with 500 million tweets going out a day on Twitter, even though you're not following everybody on Twitter, it still becomes overwhelming the amount of tweets that you get once you start following a certain volume.
Is there a way to send a message to that list? Like if like if all those, partners or whatever.
So the question is there a way to send a message to just that list? And there's not. When you send a message on Twitter, it goes out to anybody that follows you. So the only people that your message goes out to are the people that are following you. It won't go out to the people on your lists. And that's where over time, as you use your lists, then you want to start following those people so that they follow you back. You just don't want to do it too quickly. And you want to use the list to monitor to see, are these people really people that I want to follow? Because you can run into situations too where maybe you've got an influencer, let's say it's a publisher of a trade magazine. You really want to get in with this publisher of the trade magazine to hopefully get PR in their publication. So you want to try and build a relationship with them through Twitter. Well, let's say you start following them on Twitter, but they may not be using their Twitter account for work. Let's say they're just using it for personal, and their tweets aren't so nice. Then you may not want to connect with them and follow them on Twitter because that's not what they're there for. So that's why it's important to kind of follow them for a little while, see what they're tweeting before you follow them and try to start engaging with them. Go ahead.
Hi, Twitter is something I've never even opened up, so I'm still grasping with, when you say developing a relationship, what are people tweeting and why? And I'm still struggling with understanding what you're saying as far as how you use that with my business.
Okay, so the question is struggling to understand how you would engage or what that even means or what people are talking about on Twitter. And that, we're going to get to that a lot of like how we would engage with people and why in just a little bit. That's another of our steps. How are we going to interact with people? People are talking about everything on Twitter. It's everything from the mundane, what they had for lunch, my niece. College students and teenagers are super active on Twitter. My niece is a freshman at OU, and she sends out, I mean, it must be 100 tweets a day. It's crazy. And it's everything from, my roommate went to the bathroom, not really, but I mean, just things that you would never care about. So-and-so just walked into math class. I mean, really, I don't need to know that from you. But other people are tweeting things that are important. And I know Twitter gets a reputation for people only tweeting about what they're eating for lunch. But people are tweeting about other things. They're asking questions. They're asking for advice. And that's where businesses can step in and offer that advice.
I would share this, that today there was a thing at the Hudson High School. And in order to get immediate information, I went to Twitter. And it was on there, right there. Right. And so we knew right away what was going on, actually. So there is a place for it. There is a lot of noise. OU has a lot of noise.
Yeah, so there is a lot of noise, and it is good for breaking information. Like you said, with the Hudson issue today at the high school, I saw that come up on a WKYC alert on my phone, and I jumped on Twitter to see what was going on, and immediately you can find out what's happening. So there's a lot of breaking news on Twitter. Obviously that might not pertain to your business, but there are people talking about business-related things on Twitter, and that's where creating the lists can help you cut through that noise to find out the conversations that are happening that are important to your business. Yes.
Could a prospective employer go out and put an individual on their list and then therefore see what they're tweeting without that individual really knowing that the prospective employer is monitoring or looking at?
Yes. So the question was, could a prospective employer put an employer put a prospective employee on a list to see what they're talking about without that person knowing? And the answer is yes. And that's another way you could use it. And that's something that's very common. Employers are looking at social media accounts to see what people are tweeting about. I know when I left my last position, I was helping them go through candidates to fill it. And I went through and I looked at every applicant's social media to see this person was going to be handling the social media for the county. You want to make sure that they're going to be saying the right things and that, that they'll be maintaining the right attitude for PR reasons. So there were many candidates that we cut out because even of what they were saying and how they were using their personal accounts, because are they going to use the county account that way then? So that's important.
Do you know if there's a similar thing on Facebook, like list that does lists like that?
So the question was, is there a similar thing on Facebook for lists? There are Facebook lists, but you can only put people that you're friends with on lists or pages that you follow. So you can't spy. That's the one downside of Facebook. You can't spy on people as easily as you can on Twitter. And that's actually the one benefit of Twitter for businesses is that you can actually spy on people. And we'll get into that a little bit more. I'm going to talk about a couple other ways to find conversations that are happening about your business. So we're going to skip back to where we were. So another thing to do to find people that you want to be having conversations, to find your target audience, you want to look at your competition or industry leaders. So they are good sources of potential customers. So you want to look. So I brought up Catan Fashions in Cleveland, which is where I got my wedding gown several years ago. And so you could look at who's following them, because these are people that you might want to follow or start a relationship with too. So we have a prom dress designer here. There's Stephanie Schaefer, who's on local news. That would be a good connection. And then a wedding photographer, an events society. So you can look at different people that are following them and see, okay, do I want to be connecting and building relationships with these people too? And then add those people to your list.
When you say starting a relationship, what do you mean? Like if there's a publisher that I'm trying to get to, then different than me going to the website and then trying to shoot.
Right. And that's where, and this is what we're going to get into right now, is how to build the relationship. So what that means, how to engage with them. So we want to start the relationship with different people. When we do this, one way is to start sharing content. And you want to be careful when you're on Twitter as a business, and this is, again, all social media, you don't always want to be talking about yourself. So you don't always want to be talking about your business because that turns people off. It's not the hard sell. You don't want to be constantly saying 20% off this item, 30% off this item, sale today. You don't want to be the used car salesman of social media. So you don't always want to be talking about yourself. You want to be providing helpful and useful content to your potential customers because that will make them appreciate you more, and that's what's going to help you start to build the relationship with them. So when you do this, a good rule of thumb to follow is the rule of thirds, and that's 1/3 your own content that you want to share. So it could be blog posts if you have a blog for your business. It could be photos from within your business, videos, infographics. It depends on your industry again. And then you want to do 1/3 of content curation, which that would be information that's coming from an external source. So an example of this would be, let's say you're the relocation, traveling transcriptions that's going after the relocation companies. So what other information would be beneficial to somebody at a relocation company? Why should they follow you? What kind of information, what kind of thought leadership can you provide to them that would be helpful to them? For the brides, maybe it's sharing trends of weddings. So wedding trends, colors, this year's colors, sharing that information because as a bride, that makes me want to follow you. Okay, so you're going to be sharing information on what colors are in, ideas on things I can do at my wedding, even though it's not all about the bridal gown. If they're sharing tips for wedding favors and different things like that, it gives me a reason to follow them because it's information that's important to me at that time. So think about what information you can be sharing that would be beneficial to your potential customers. And then you find that online, and we're going to break this all out even farther as we go through. The other third, yes, go ahead.
As you're sending those kinds of things out, do you just have the people that are following you is one big pool so that when you're sending these buckets out, you can say everybody's getting everything, or you send some content to this group and some content to another group?
Okay, so the question is, when you're sending things out, are they going into the big bucket of everybody that's following you, or are they going out to certain groups? On Twitter, the only way is to just send it out to everybody. There's no way to segment who you're sending it to. So when you send the message out, it goes out to everybody that follows you. Yes, go ahead.
So the marketplace, if they go to somebody's list that's services similar to theirs, and they go and they find people, you want to follow those people looking for dresses and stuff?
Yes, so the question was,
If they follow you, then once they're married and done, what happens? You don't want to keep in contact with them, do you?
right. Okay, so the question was, for in the example of the bridal service, so you've got, you go to your competition, you find people that are engaged, and then you follow them, they follow you back, but then they get married, so they don't need your service anymore. And that would be, in that specific case, you would want to go through and clean up your followers every now and then of, okay, this person, their wedding has passed, we're not going to follow them anymore. You can unfollow anybody at any time. So I go through our list every couple of months, and if people aren't active on Twitter, I unfollow them just to kind of clean it up. So there is maintenance. And this is where, again, if it's not right for your business, don't do it. So, go ahead.
Is this, when you do your segmentation, you go to determine, whether your customers are out there, is this like predominantly 4-to-1 B2C versus B2B?
Okay. So the question was, is it predominantly B2B or B2C? It's a mix. Twitter is really a mix. LinkedIn is so primarily B2B. Facebook is very primarily B2C. But on Twitter, you have a real mix. Because people can use their accounts. I use my account both professionally and personally. I have friends that are on Twitter, and I interact with them on a personal level. And then I also interact with people on a professional level on Twitter, unlike Facebook, where I don't want my clients necessarily to be my friends on Facebook seeing pictures of my kids all the time. So it's a little bit different. Go ahead.
Can you help me understand? We previously successful in your experience does it take to be meaningful for your small business owner that's struggling to take care of everything else?
So the question was, how much time and resources does it take to maintain a Twitter presence? And I would say at minimum a half an hour 3 times a week. A lot of our clients, we do a half an hour to an hour a day. So that it's something that you need to take into consideration. A lot of businesses, you can hook up your Facebook page to automatically post to your Twitter account. And that's a big no-no. It doesn't get you any engagement on Twitter. It does nothing really for your business. It's just shooting messages into the dark, basically. And they do that because they have time constraints. We're all busy. So that's where it's really important. It can be very beneficial. It can be very beneficial, especially trying to get in with publishers for online PR, to try and get bloggers to write articles about your products and services. A lot of them are on Twitter using it, and to build those relationships can be invaluable if you can get into a trade magazine, and that produces a lot of sales for you, and then it pays off. But that's why these Twitter lists, it's so important to go in to see if your audience is there, because if they're not there or not there in enough numbers to make it worth your while, it's not worth a half an hour a day of your time.
Can I say, this is what a simplified version of what I'm hearing is that to start, like say you tweet on your account, like 3 different things about a noun, and you design a noun, okay? And then you go ahead and you approach maybe someone who does flowers, and then they would look back at you to see what you already started, what your commenting has been about the gowns, and then it goes back and forth like that.
Right. So the question was somebody
Start this out to get it rolling.
to start out to get the conversation rolling. Somebody, you follow somebody, they come back and comment on something of yours, and you go back and comment on something of theirs.
You start out like tweeted, like say 3 things about a certain dress, just as an example.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You start with your own tweets about something, and then
Yes. Yeah, so you start with your own tweets about something, and then you want to, so the final third is engagement. So this is where you're looking for people to actually start conversations. So you're putting out your own information, and then you're looking at those lists and seeing what people are talking about, and then you're engaging with them. So they put out a tweet. You find it interesting, it's relevant to your business, you reply to that tweet and start a conversation with them. And that's the engagement portion. And that's where you begin to develop the relationship, because then you're on their radar and they start looking at your tweets and they start commenting on your tweets. And then you go back and forth and build the relationship, just like a friendship. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Are there limitations to posting your own content? Are there parameters and guidelines for what you can post, or size?
Okay, so the question was limitations on what you can post. A post can only be 140 characters long on Twitter, so it's a little bit shorter than a text message is the message that you're sending out. But you can upload photos to Twitter. You can upload, you can link to videos on YouTube. Put a little message link to YouTube. It's very short, brief bits of information. So your
links don't count as characters?
Links do count as characters in your tweets.
How many?
It depends on how many characters. Depends on how long the link is. Each link is a different length.
So if it's really a long one, it might not even fit in there.
Yeah, so the question was if it's a long link, it might not even fit in there. And that's, I'm not really getting into it too much in this presentation, but you can use URL shorteners, like Bitly is a service. It's free. You can put in your URL and it shortens it down. That way it doesn't take up as much of your space. And we'll talk about some management tools in a minute that also do that automatically for you. And I know you had a question.
I was going to talk about management tools, and I know previously when I've used social media management, I've used TweetDeck. Do you have
Yes.
other suggestions because for business owners, you can, at the beginning of the day, you can set aside half an hour and just knock out, there's some certain stories that you want to talk about that are in the news that you want to, send out as a tweet. So you can use services that will schedule your tweets for you, and they'll automatically blast out those tweets to whoever followers you have. And I use
Yeah, so the question was about management tools for scheduling out your tweets to help make Twitter more manageable, and TweetDeck is a good one. I've used Hootsuite. I also use Buffer, and I'm going to go in depth with those here in just a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit more in the pros and cons of scheduling your tweets. Yes.
Real quick, can you, instead of going and following it, can you just use it to go on and find, like, a company's looking for a certain type of thing, and just answer that with a tweet?
Yes.
Instead of following that and building up a big
Yes.
relationship?
So the question was, can you go on and find somebody that's talking, a company that's talking about a specific thing, and just go and reply back to their tweet? That is one option, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a minute, and give you some examples of how. So again, so you want to think about when you start off your Twitter account, you want to share a third of your own content, a third of other people's content that's relative to your business. So another example for this, since I didn't get to talk about it too much, was for the bridal shop. Let's say they are partnering with a florist, and the florist is posting pictures of things. That's a perfect item to reshare, because you're building the relationship with that other business by resharing their content. And then a third is engaging directly with people. It's starting those conversations with your target audience. So we're going to kind of dig down into this a little bit more. So when you're sharing content, you want to share content that is right. So what right stands for is relevant, interesting, timely, and educational. Some people say educational, other people say entertaining. It can be either. So these are the qualities you want to look for in what you're tweeting. So this is the most popular tweet of 2013. It's from actress Leah Michele, who's on the TV show Glee, and her boyfriend and co-star Corey passed away this past year, and this was the most popular tweet on Twitter. It was favorited over almost 400,000 times and retweeted almost 400,000 times. Huge reach with this tweet. It was relevant because he had just passed away. A lot of people follow the show. It was interesting. She included a picture in it of the two of them, which made the tweet more interesting, more pulling at your heartstrings. It was timely. It wasn't necessarily educational or entertaining. Each tweet doesn't have to be all four things. It's not always going to fit, but you want it to fit at least one or two of them. Some people might, in a weird way, have found this entertaining. I hope not, but you never know. The other thing is you want to determine your voice on social media. So what is your brand's voice? Are you quirky and snarky like Taco Bell? They can get away with this. Not every brand can do this. We can't do this at our office. That would turn off clients so quickly. But they can get away with talking about themselves all the time because of who their target audience is. And their target audience buys into this. So keep your friends close and your Taco Bell closer is one of their tweets. It got retweeted 3,000 times, which is just crazy, and favorited over 2,000 times. They go back and forth with other brands. They pick on other brands, and other brands know that they can pick on them. So here's a conversation between them and Old Spice. Old Spice says, why is it that fire sauce isn't made with any real fire? Seems like false advertising. So Taco Bell comes back and says, Old Spice is your deodorant made with really old spices. So brands will pick on each other. Obviously, this is more big brands. You could do it on a local scale. If you have a brand that you work with a lot, you could pick on each other if that fits your audience. This is an extreme case. Most of us here in this room can't get away with this kind of stuff, and it's not what our audience is looking for either. But maybe it's more educational. NASA's got a really great and active social media presence. They have over 5 million followers on Twitter. You can ask them any kind of science question, and they'll come back with an answer, which is really cool. So again, thinking about the relevant, interesting, timely, educational, forget cooking turkey, learn how to cook a comet. All you need is an oven as hot as the sun, and then they hashtag it Thanksgiving, and they have a little YouTube video there for you. So it's relevant. They tied it in, the timeliness of Thanksgiving. They tied it in with that. And then it's interesting, it's entertaining, it's educational. So that's an example.
favorites. What's a lot? I mean, that's a good number.
So the question is this a good number? 92 retweets and 60 favorites. It may be for them. So the thing you need to determine is what is a good number for you. Not everybody is going to get the 3,000 retweets that Taco Bell gets or the 3,000 favorites. Depending on your industry, not everything goes viral. It's just there's such a small percentage of things that actually go viral on the internet. So for them, 92 retweets and 60 favorites might be good. They might consider that good. You really want to look at, is it my target audience that's favoriting it? Is it my target audience that's retweeting it? And then determine that.
I get what a retweet is, but what is a favorite?
So the question is, what is a favorite? It would be similar to a like on Facebook. Yeah.
What's the average demographic of a Twitter user?
So average demographic of a Twitter user, it's pretty spread out. The largest growing segment on Twitter right now is the 15 to 34-year-old. So really the high school and college students are the largest growing demographic. And
Has a lot less than Leah Michelle.
yeah, it would be a lot less than Leah Michelle and a lot less than Taco Bell.
So if you favorite someone, are you following them?
Okay, so the question was, if you favorite someone, are you following them? And no. No. A favorite is just saying that you like that specific post. So you want to determine what your voice is. Are you going to be fun? Are you going to be light? Are you going to be humorous? And that really goes back to knowing who your audience is and what they react to. So we want to, when we're sharing our own content, we want to make sure that it's relevant, interesting, timely, educational, or entertaining. And then we want to find great content, that other third of the curating content. We want to find other content to share. So here are different ways that we can do that, find that content to share with our followers. You can find it through your Twitter lists. Of those, like the example that I used earlier of the bridal shop and the florist. They've got the florist on a Twitter list because they're a business partner of theirs, so they share their information to build that relationship. You can follow hashtags. You can look at keywords. You can follow blogs. So following blogs by thought leaders in your industry, that's really B2B, B2C. Maybe it's following mommy bloggers. Maybe it's following blogs that talk about weddings, whatever it is in your industry. That's good.
So that last one had hashtag Thanksgiving. So if I just type in Thanksgiving in the search, that hashtag that say Thanksgiving will come up?
Yeah, so the question was, the last tweet from NASA had the hashtag Thanksgiving. If you type that in search, would that tweet come up? And the answer is yes.
And only in the Twitter search, or if I do like a Google search?
So the second question is only in a Twitter search or in a Google search? Most likely only in a Twitter search. For the word Thanksgiving in Google, there would be other things that come up. It is possible, all tweets are indexed by Google, so it is possible that a tweet can show up in Google search results, but usually there's so much other content on the web, it's not going to come up very quickly. Yes.
I need to ask a hashtag. I'm new to this, but a hashtag then is, I can read here, it's a group, it helps group conversations, but do I open up a hashtag or?
Okay, so the question on hashtag, what is it, and how do I open one or how do I use it? So it is a way to group content together. People, I'm going to give some examples of hashtags in a little bit, and I think that will kind of, especially ways that businesses can use them, and I think that will help clear it up. So we'll kind of circle back to that. So following blogs, newsletters from that thought leaders might put out in your industry, other relevant news sources in your industry. Follow those. Those can be good sources of content. Pinterest, if it's relevant to your business. Pinterest, you could search on there for information that you might want to share with your followers on Twitter. Looking at Google+, that's more of on the B2B side. Delicious, Alltop. These are all other resources that you can go to find articles and information to share that would be of interest to your target audience that's not coming directly from you. It's kind of like, I think this often happens. I can tell my husband something a million times, and then he hears it from a friend, and then he believes it. or his mom tells him that he needs to be doing something, and then he does it because mom told him. So sometimes it's coming from a third party. People will believe the information more than it coming from you. So looking for that information that's relevant to your audience, that's not necessarily coming right from you as a brand. So the question is, what is Delicious? It's a bookmarking service. So a lot of people use it. They can to save bookmarks of their favorite articles, and you can go in and search that by topics. They're all categorized by topics. So, okay. So one of the things we talked about was Twitter lists, and now so this is getting into a little bit of how we're going to start managing the relationships, how we're going to start sending out our content, helping to monitor our Twitter lists. You can go directly into Twitter, like we talked about before, and go to me, click on lists, and then go to all your Twitter lists, click on them, and then see things. A tool that will help you do this. This is a screenshot of Hootsuite, which is one Twitter management tool. You can create columns in Hootsuite. You just do this add a stream up here, and it connects to your Twitter account, and it will let you bring in all of your lists. So you can add a column for all of your lists. So you can log in, like you said earlier, log in the morning, look at all your lists. So here's one list that we have that's other businesses in Stark County, another list that's our pole position marketing team. So these are all different people in the office, what they're tweeting. I can kind of look through that, see if there's anything, good information in there that I want to share, if there's conversations that I want to join into with other people. So that is one good way to manage your list, and it's a very easy visual format to see all the columns at one time. Just log into one place and you've got them all right there. You can also, from this, reply directly to people. So you just click on this little reply button up here, and you can, if you want to start engaging in a conversation with them, you just hit reply, put in what you want to talk about, and hit send. It is right there. So the other button next to it right here, the little kind of circular one, that's the retweet button. So if you wanted to retweet that tweet out to your followers, it's content that you want to share with your followers, you can just hit the little retweet button, and then that tweet is sent out to all of your followers.
That says pole position retweet.
Right. Yeah. It would show that, and I'm going to show you guys what a retweet looks like here in a few minutes. So then the keywords. So we talked about how you can use keywords to find things in search. And this would go back to the earlier question about if I see a company talking about something, can I just reply directly to them? Do I have to follow them? So these were an example in Hootsuite. I can add a stream and I can put in a keyword, and it will automatically keep this stream up to date with the latest tweets talking about a keyword. So here I have the hashtag SMX. So that's a hashtag for Search Marketing Expo. And our owner and president of the company was speaking at SMX. And so I wanted to follow the conversations happening from the conference and see who was talking about his presentations so that I could reply to them, interact with those people while he's out there giving the presentation, which is kind of fun. I'm back here in Ohio interacting with people that he's speaking to out in Las Vegas. So so you can see all of the tweets that had that hashtag. People were tagging their tweets with that hashtag so that everybody knew they could follow that conversation that was happening around that conference or event. So that's one instance of using a hashtag, would be for conferences and events and different things that are happening like that. The other thing is the second column is @StoneyD. That's my boss's Twitter handle, and I watch everything he does on Twitter. So, and tell him what to do on Twitter sometimes. So again, when he was out at SMX, I wanted to see who was mentioning him on Twitter. So again, so that I could interact with them. When I was at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, I used to have different columns set up. The one cool thing for me when I was there and how Twitter was really helpful, was when a visitor comes into the area, I can't see them posting on Facebook about their travels or where they're eating for lunch or anything like that. On Twitter, I can find that information. So I used to have search columns for different local attractions, like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which was our #1 attraction in Stark County. So I had keyword searches for Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame, and I would monitor those and see when people were actually visiting. I could tell if they were from out of town by their Twitter profile. I would reply back to them. One of my favorite stories was I also watched keywords for the Akron-Canton Airport to see when people were flying in. So I saw this one guy tweet earlier in the day that he was headed here from Texas to visit the Football Hall of Fame. So I sent a reply to him. I wasn't following him. I sent a reply to him and said, see, you're coming into town. If you need anything while you're here, let us know. We can help you with restaurant recommendations, etc. So then later in the day, I did follow him for the day. So I followed him. I saw when he landed in Akron-Canton, said, see you landed, welcome to Canton. Then he checks into his hotel, and then I see him tweet that he has a problem at his hotel. So I reply back to him and said, so sorry you're having this issue. I contacted the general manager of the hotel. He got it worked out. The guy retweeted back, this is the best place ever to come visit. They worked out my problems for me and can't wait to go see the Hall of Fame. So I followed him for the couple days that he was in town on a Twitter list until he left, and then I took him off my Twitter list. But I just kind of used the Twitter list to follow him and interact with him while he was in town. I had another couple where the woman had tweeted that they were coming to the Football Hall of Fame. She and her daughter were just going to stay in the hotel because they didn't want to go to the Football Hall of Fame with the dad and the son. So I said, well, there's not too far by. You could drop the boys off, go to the First Ladies Museum, or go over to McKinley Museum. You know, I gave her all these ideas. Go take them to Taggart's for ice cream. And so she ended up doing that. So part of our goal was to increase visitor spending in the county. So by doing that, I got her out of the hotel room. Instead of just staying at the pool, she was out. They went to the First Ladies, so they dropped money there. They dropped money at Taggart's for lunch, and there was more economic impact. So that's how you can interact with people that may be talking about things relative to your business. Well, you have to.
I personally would be like, okay, well, it's kind of like that.
Well, but she was with the county.
Yeah.
You would come up at your.
Yeah, I came up as the Canton Stark County CVB. Yeah, it should be your business name. So it's going to come up, and that's, you have to walk that line. I mean, you really do have to walk that line. And again, it depends on the industry you're in. You always want to be helpful. I mean, you don't want to come on too strong and say, I see that you need a new roof. Come get a quote from us. I mean, you have to be careful, but that's where good PR skills come in, and knowing where to draw the line between helpful and being a stalker. So yeah, because that is an issue. So that's how you can use keyword searches, and Hootsuite is a great way to do that because you can save those keyword searches in columns and then go in once a day or in the morning and check them to see if people are talking about something relevant to you. So the retweet, here's examples of the retweet. This will kind of give you a visual to explain them more. So you want to retweet great content to your audience. So look for brand mentions. Sharpie does this a ton. And here's this Sign of Change organization that's in Toledo, and it says, Sharpie, you brighten people's day in Toledo by making a great brand of permanent markers that we use, and it shows a sign that they made using their marker. So Sharpie retweets this. It's great PR for them. There are two ways a retweet can show up on Twitter. There's this one. This is the Austin, Texas Visitors Bureau. They're talking about the weekend is almost here. They put the RT, which means retweet, at Culture Map ATX, looking for something to do this weekend, and it's a list of events going on that weekend in Austin. There's another way you can do that. So that's retweeting and adding. So the Visitors Bureau added the weekend is almost here to the retweet. So they added something additional on. Or if you just hit retweet without adding something on, you just tweet it like it is, it comes up in the Austin, Texas feed as Circuit of Americas. and then this picture, their tweet, and then it has a line here, retweeted by Austin, Texas. So those are two different ways a retweet can show up. If you don't add any comments, it shows up like this. If you add comments, it shows up like that. But that's an example of sharing relevant content from other sources with your target audience. Here's another use of hashtags, our Twitter chats. So let's say you're a company that sells technology goods to education. So let's say you make smart boards. There are tons of chats about that. So there's, wrong button. This one we have is EdTech chat. So there's a service called Tweet Chat. If you just Google Tweet Chat, you can find the website. You can search to see what chats there are in your industry. When they are, it'll tell you what day they happen, what time. You get on Twitter, you create a search column in your Hootsuite, or you can actually use Tweet Chat. You can sign in with your Twitter account into Tweet Chat, and it will create a column for you in that service for the hashtag. So you would create a search column for EdTech Chat, and then there's usually a moderator, and they'll ask a question, like here's question 3, how do you use technology and social media in branding your school district? And then they put in the EdTech Chat hashtag so people can follow the conversation. So then this person replies back, A3, which is the answer to question 3. We also have a Facebook page, and we have booths at events in our community. We have a mascot that attends games and such events, EdTech Chat. So these are all people in the education technology industry that are getting together to talk. So if I am a supplier, I can go, and all of a sudden, here's my list of potential clients. Not every industry has it. Again, you have to find out, see if it's something that your industry has. When I was at the Convention and Visitors Bureau, we tried to bring in conventions into the Stark County area. So our convention salesperson, they had different hashtags that meeting planners would use to discuss things happening in the meetings industry, and she would join in those chats, offer helpful information to start building relationships with those meeting planners to help hopefully eventually bring their meetings to the Canton area.
When you put those hashtags in, like EdCheck, do you put it before or after, or you can put it anywhere in the message?
The hashtag can go anywhere in the message. Typically, it goes at the end. Now, you can, when you hashtag something, it could be a word within your tweet that you put a hashtag in front of, if it makes sense within the context of the tweet. Like for us, if I'm talking about something about great new trends in PPC advertising, I might put a hashtag before PPC so that people that are following tweets about PPC advertising, that would come up for them. So you want to use them sparingly. You don't want to over hashtag your tweets, and some people will do this. You want to use max 3 tweets or 3 hashtags in your tweet. Otherwise, people start ignoring them if you start hashtagging everything. Starbucks does a great job with branding and hashtags. You can't own a hashtag. That's one thing. If you create a hashtag that you want to start using for your business, there's no way, nobody can own a hashtag. You can't somebody takes your hashtags and uses it in an inappropriate manner. There's nothing you can do about it. It's all fair game. But if you have a really great campaign going, like Starbucks, the PSL, which was the pumpkin spice latte, they had it everywhere. If you went into Starbucks in the fall, they had it on their chalkboard signs, hashtag PSL. They encouraged people on all of their social networks to get on Twitter and use the hashtag PSL. I mean, people were posting pictures of their pumpkin spice lattes from all over the country and using the hashtag PSL. So it was great branding for them. But they didn't overdo it. They used it in their own tweets. They've got this funny picture of some pumpkin head people. Did you hear about the girl who drank too many hashtag PSLs? So they really used it as a campaign for one specific product. We use a hashtag at our educational events, hashtag PPMEDU. I'll tweet out things when we do workshops, little tips. I'll tweet out tips, and then people that are in the workshops can also use that hashtag to tweet things from them. So there are a lot of different ways you can use that. When I was at the Visitors Bureau, we had a hashtag Heart Stark. And we tried to encourage people to use that whenever they were out visiting local attractions. Post your pictures on Twitter, post your experiences, and hashtag it HeartStark. So there's different ways you can do that. Does that clear up what a hashtag is or how it's used? Okay.
How do you track that? Or can you go back and look at who's using that hashtag?
Yeah, so the question was, how do you track a hashtag? And that would be with, you could do a keyword search for hashtag PSL, and then it brings up everybody that's using that hashtag. So then you can see, and that's a good thing to do before you decide on a hashtag for your business or for a specific campaign you're running, because you want to see how other people are using the hashtags before you use them in your tweets, because you don't want to get wrapped up into a conversation that's not appropriate for your business. So the other question is, when should you share? There's a great service called FollowerWonk. It's just followerwonk.com. You can go in, you can put in your Twitter account, and it will tell you when your followers are active on Twitter. I did this for All Brides Beautiful, and it shows you exactly what time their followers are most active. So then you can make sure that you're either tweeting at that time or scheduling your tweets to go out at those most active hours. So obviously, I keep hitting the advance button instead of the laser. So 12 o'clock, obviously, noon is a very high time for their followers. You want to be active then. Another time is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you kind of want to look at these peaks. If you use, there's a scheduling tool called Buffer. It's one that I use and I use with our clients. You can actually hit this button here. It'll sign you into your Buffer account, and it'll create a schedule in your Buffer account on the optimal times. So you say, I want to tweet 9 times a day, or I want to tweet 4 times a day, and it'll tell you the exact times that you should be tweeting that are.
Can you add in a different content for each of those 9 times?
Yeah, so the question was, can you add in content for each of those 9 times? Yes. So you have you can just go into your Buffer, you put in your tweet, and you hit the Buffer button, and it automatically puts it in at the optimal time to send the tweet out. So you don't have to be on your computer at noon for 9 a.m. It can just do the work for you.
If you tweet something, they'll still get it, even, their high time is noon. If I tweet at 9 a.m., they'll still see it.
The question was, if their high time is noon and I tweet at 9 a.m., will they still see it? They may not. If you tweet it at 9 a.m. and they come on at noon and they're following 500 people, your tweet's long gone. It's been buried by everybody else.
An activity is a tweet. When you're saying that an activity is at noon, that's when they're tweeting.
Yeah, the activity is when they're tweeting, when they're most actively tweeting. Yes.
Can you embed your tweet feed in a Facebook page?
The question was, can you embed your Twitter feed in a Facebook page? You can send your tweets automatically to Facebook, but again, it's not something I would recommend either way, sending Facebook to Twitter or Twitter to Facebook, because things work differently on the two platforms, and they don't show up very well. And people can tell that you're not paying attention to one or the other. You want to be careful when you're scheduling your content. Stay alert of current events. Here are some mishaps. So this celeb boutique site, they had somebody overseas managing their Twitter account. And one of their lines of clothing was this Aurora dress. And this happened when the Aurora shootings happened at Aurora, Colorado, the movie theater shootings. So the hashtag, the word Aurora, was trending on Twitter. It meant that a lot of people were sending out tweets about the shooting. So they see that it's trending. They're overseas. They have no idea what's happening. So they say, Aurora is trending, clearly about our Kim K-inspired Aurora dress. Shop, and then the link to the product. So as you can imagine, for those of us here in the States who know what's happening, that doesn't go over with us well. I mean, they're trying to the average user, it looks like they're trying to take advantage of the situation, and it's really bad PR. Another was Epicurious. This happened during the Boston Marathon bombing. They put out, and this was like right after the bombing happened, they put out, in honor of Boston and New England, may we suggest whole grain cranberry scones. So not really appropriate. It would have been appropriate had the bombings not happened. They already had it scheduled. Somebody wasn't watching what was happening in current events. And then they come back a half an hour later and say, Boston, our hearts are with you. Here's a bowl of breakfast energy we could all use to start today. Not the best comeback in terms of PR. You don't want to, you just apologize and let it go. You don't come back and then suggest another recipe. So be careful. That's why I have on my smartphone, I use a CNN app. I have the WKYC app that show me alerts of current events. That way, if something's happening, even when the Boston bombings were happening, even though our business isn't really related, I wasn't sending anything out with Boston, I stopped tweeting that day. I stopped all our Facebook posts, our tweets, everything. Anytime anything like that happens, a school shooting, anything like that, you just pause and you go dark for the rest of the day until the tragedy calms down, and then you resume, just out of respect and just to avoid any kind of PR fiascos. So it's important to stay abreast of what's going on around you. So when looking at scheduling tools and management tools, there's Buffer app, there's Hootsuite. I like them both. I use them both. Hootsuite I love because you have the columns and you can monitor your list, you can monitor your keywords. It makes everything so much easier in that respect. And then when you see the conversations happening, you can start to engage with people and reply back to them and start the conversations with them. But I love Buffer. It's only a scheduling tool. You can't go in and follow your lists, but it's so nice to be able to set those times, those optimal times. You put in your tweets. You know they're going out at the right times. You don't have to guess. And it makes life really easy. So they're two good tools. They both have free options. They both have paid options. You can use them both. You can schedule with Hootsuite too. You just don't have the advantage of scheduling at the optimal time. But those are two free tools that you can use to help manage your Twitter account. So I know that's a lot of information, and a lot of you aren't familiar with Twitter at all. So are there any other questions on how to build the relationships? Feel free to come up afterwards, and I can answer specific questions that you might have for your business, or try and walk you through. We can maybe get online here and bring some things up, and I can show you some things. Sure.
I just wanted to mention that before you started speaking, I spoke with you and said that I've been entrenched trying not to use Twitter because I'm doing so many other things with marketing, and I didn't know that much about Twitter, and I'm extremely happy that I came tonight. You gave a wonderful presentation, and it's a lot of food for thought. But I appreciate the time that you spent sharing this with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I know it's overwhelming, so I apologize. There's a lot to it. I just can't stress enough how important the lists are to help you organize, because otherwise you'll get on there and it's just a sea of tweets going out, and it won't make a bit of difference to your business. So it's really important to find your audience, put them in those lists, start following them, and then start replying back to their tweets and engaging with them. So, and I was just going to mention, too, a little plug for our business. I'm with Pole Position Marketing. It's a web marketing company in Uniontown. We also do workshops. We do small group workshops. We limit it to 8 people, so it can be very interactive, very hands-on. I did this presentation a couple of months ago, and it was more hands-on, and we actually got in and you actually created your Twitter list while we were there. We got your Twitter account set up, all of that. They're aimed at small businesses. We have one coming up on March 4th that's all about learning what keywords are appropriate for your business, what keywords people are using to search for your business online. In April, we're going to talk about setting up pay-per-click advertising campaigns and how to do that and best practices. So my coworker Kevin is here, and he has flyers. If you're interested, feel free to come up and get them. I have my business cards too. Feel free to email me if you ever have any questions. If you go home and you're like, how do I set up that list again? Feel free to email me, and I'm happy to answer those questions for you. So thank you very much for coming out tonight.